YouTube, what's going on? This is Kevin the Tech Ninja. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So I've been using the iPhone 13 Pro Max for nearly 30 days now, and I have a really good understanding about this phone. There's some things I like, there are some things I don't like, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it in this little open dialogue conversation. Of course, if you have something to say, make sure you leave it down below. And also, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that little red subscribe button down below and drop a thumbs up if you like this type of content. So this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max. This is Apple's biggest phone to date. It's a 6.7-inch display, which is a large phone, but what I mean by biggest, it's actually thicker too than last year's phone. So as far as battery life, I found myself getting a couple more hours of battery life than I normally do, which actually equates to me being at around 30% when I go to bed. Before, I was at around 20%, maybe 15 sometimes when I went to bed. But this phone right here really holds battery charge. So I'm a person that uses his phone for like more tasks than the average person. As a content creator, I'm always shooting video. I may even edit video on here. And these are like really heavy things to do. So I expect you guys or anyone else who may not do these things to get better battery life than that. But even then, that is phenomenal. I'm very impressed with battery life. This is a pretty expensive phone starting at $1099. But Apple does have these trade-ins that were pretty good this time around. So you can stack multiple phones and devices for Apple credit, and then you can get the phone that way. So I think Apple did a great job making these phones more attainable, even though they're pretty expensive. Now, I was a 12 Pro user most of last year, but I did switch to the Pro Max towards the summer where I started traveling more, because the 12 Pro battery life just didn't hold up for me as a person that was always on the go. I need to have great battery life. There's power banks and stuff, but I don't want to mess with those things. I just need better battery life. So then I switched to the Pro Max to get that battery life. And yeah, this one right here is a freaking battery tank. I've taken it to New York twice now. I didn't consider bringing like an extra charging pack or anything. It was always good to go with great battery life. This is a pretty large phone, which I think requires two hands to use at all times. I mean, using with one hand is not comfortable at all. Like for me, it's kind of a struggle to use it with one hand. And then definitely when it comes to typing, I can't get my thumb from one side to the other without doing a stretch. So it's always two-handed for me. If I tried to use one hand, I'll have a lot of typos because I'm stretching way over, and that's not a natural movement. So this is definitely a two-handed phone. Now, when it comes to watching content on here or playing games, or even sometimes, like I said, I edit video for TikTok and social, having this large screen makes everything really nice. And speaking of the large screen, it looks really good. It gets very bright. HDR looks really good on here when you're taking pictures and doing videos, or someone sending you a video. HDR looks really good, and even watching YouTube content, this looks fantastic. So the blacks are pure black, as you can see around here. All of this is just raw blackness. And then you have the colors pop in, the colors look really good. And then you have this HDR when you have like a little bit of brightness popping in. I mean, overall, this screen in person looks a lot better than I could show you on camera, but I'm a huge fan of how the screen looks. I put it up there as probably the best screen on mobile, not because of how big it is, but because of how bright it gets and how the colors look and how the black levels are pure black. And the HDR, I feel like this year has gotten better on the screen. I'm not sure what the stats will say or the specs will say, but for me, HDR seems much more pronounced. Then we have the ProMotion display, and a lot of like average users may not understand what the ProMotion display is, but it's one of those things that when you start using the phone, you'll definitely understand what it is. Everything is just much more smoother when using it. It responds quicker. Now, of course, we do need to wait until more apps support it, because right now it is just on the OS, and a couple of games are starting to trickle in now. But for the most part, everything's still running at 60 Hertz. So it's one of those things that it'll get better over time. But I'm so glad that there's finally a high refresh rate screen on these phones. And it's for the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max. The regular iPhone does not have it, but it's a welcomed addition that will continue to get better over time. I don't know why people are freaking out about it already. I would say another big advantage of having a big screen is that you get a big viewfinder. I mean, when you're taking pictures, you're doing video, you have this much larger viewfinder to do these things, which definitely is easier to take pictures and videos and zoom in on fine details. So just having a larger phone just is much more convenient. You know, I've talked about how large it feels in the hand and things like that. And this isn't related to just this phone, but the Pro models, they have these edges that are very glossy, and they get fingerprints and everything like that. It's nothing that is like horrible because most people put it in cases, but it is something I wanted to mention because I do love how the phone feels overall. But these edges really do get gross pretty fast. So obviously, you know, a lot of people will put these phones in a case because you're protecting your investment. And this is, you know, Apple's leather case, which I really like. And of course, now you don't have this at all. Or some people can get a D-brand skin that can wrap around the whole thing. It's really up to you. Now, a big shout out to D-brand. They're one of my sponsors. They provide skins for phones for less than 15 bucks. You can make your phone look unique. I think it looks pretty cool. You can make your phone look totally different than anyone else's. You can stand out from the rest of the people with the D-brand skin. Hit the links down below to D-brand your device. Now, this screen is stronger when it comes to drops as far as cracking and shattering. I haven't cracked an iPhone screen in a couple of years, which is nice, but it is not scratch resistant because I've seen some micro scratches on other iPhones that I've had, and other people are reporting micro scratches too. So I wouldn't say this phone is resistant to those things. So I do recommend picking up a screen protector. Now, I have talked about the camera in detail before in other videos, and of course I will continue to talk about it as I talk about this phone, but here's some quick notes that I noticed about the camera. So number one, HDR looks really, really good on photos. If you look at it on an iPhone, then it looks really good. It looks a lot better than what it looked like in person, if that makes any sense. But the problem is if you put it on a computer monitor that isn't HDR, then you lose some of that effect, of course. Same thing for video. HDR video just looks better overall. I had a friend of mine ask me, he said, how did you send me that video? Like, how did that video look that good? I was like, I'm using HDR on the iPhone, and he went through and turned on his HDR settings and video starts to pop a lot better. Big fan of that. Now, any picture I'm talking about, all the videos I'm talking about, if you want to see them for how they should look and you have a phone that has HDR like an iPhone, I have an iCloud library link down below. Make sure you click on that so you can follow along with this video and see what I'm talking about. I will say cinematic mode, a lot of people were trying to give it grief. I still use cinematic mode and I think it looks pretty good. Cinematic mode allows you to blur out the background and have it focus on a face or multiple faces. As people walk into the frame or someone turns away, the camera will readjust to the largest face in the frame. And I think it's a really cool mode. After the fact, you can edit that cinematic mode if you want, but it's just one of those things that is not going to replace a Hollywood camera as the commercial may make it seem, but at the same time, it is still a fun mode to play with, and I personally use it a lot when I send videos to people or I'm just talking. I think it looks pretty cool. I do think the video on the iPhone is just better than anything else. I think Samsung and Apple were like really close to each other. I think Apple has surpassed Samsung when it comes to video, especially when you talk about HDR. HDR takes it to the next level. Now, as far as iOS 15, I do like the changes Apple made with the iOS 15. And what I like right here is focus modes where you can basically set different profiles depending on what you're doing. So I have one for golf, I have one for shooting, I have one for work and all those things. So, you know, if I have one for work, that means I'm only getting work emails coming through, nothing personal, and all those things like that. So I really do think focus mode is a cool thing on iOS 15. And I like how the changes to iMessages and shared with me and things like that. I'm a really big fan of iOS 15, although it is a little bit buggy. I have ran into weird things where messages crashes, but at the end of the day, I'm sure it's gonna get updates and things will eventually get better over time. So I think the speakers are absolutely amazing on this phone. They get super duper loud. I can't play music too long because I'll get hit with the copyright, but listen to this really fast. So yeah, that sounds really good. I'm very impressed with the audio quality. Speakerphone sounds really good too. If I'm on a call, kicking it over to speaker, I can't have the volume cranked all the way up because it's way too loud. So the speakers in this thing absolutely knock. On paper, I totally think this is the best iPhone as far as performance, as far as usability, just the raw specs and just, the camera and all those things just make this phone the best iPhone. I just think the size is definitely not for me, as I like a smaller phone, but that's where the iPhone 12 Pro comes into play. And that's my personal phone, and that's the phone that I dig the most. But I understand why people are gravitating towards the Pro Max. I totally get it. I totally understand it. And I think Apple did an amazing job with this phone. This is definitely Apple's best phone they've ever made. Obviously, it's the newest phone too, but for people saying that between the 12 and the 13 there isn't that many changes, it's because it's a really good phone already. Like, it doesn't need many changes for it to be an even better phone. They took what was great about the 12 and they added more features that people were asking for, like the Pro display and better battery life. And so I don't expect many changes every single year. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts about the 12 Pro Max after a month. I want to know what yours are. Sound off down below and make sure you hit subscribe as well, because I have more content coming out. Kevin the Tech Ninja here. Have a good day. I'll catch you folks later. Peace.